Thank you so much for being here. And we're excited to talk to you all about our journey with conversational agents in Looker. My name is Jain. I'm in the outbound product management team, and I'm joined here today by Leigha, who's in the product team. And we're super thrilled to have Haviland from Yahoo, who's going to walk us through their real-world journey with conversational analytics. All right, so our agenda is as follows. I'll go through a brief introduction about our product vision, followed by an overview of conversational analytics in Looker and the product capabilities that come with it. Then we'll have a deep dive into Looker's AI architecture, the foundation that powers these conversational agents. Then we'll have a live product demo, followed by Yahoo's success story with conversational agents. And last but not the least, we want to leave you with a sneak preview into what's coming, a little bit about the roadmap of our conversational agents. All right, so let's set the stage. Our vision is simple. We believe that data and analytics should be as simple and as scalable as Google search. We want to bridge the gap between human content, human interactions via natural language, and technical execution. So by delivering these consumer-grade experiences that billions already rely on, we provide a new way to cloud that delivers trusted data for everyone. Now, this isn't just AI sitting on top of a database. AI is actually infused in every layer of the Google Cloud data stack. And this deep integration ensures that the intelligence that you interact with is grounded with security, with governance, and reliability of the entire Google data platform. Now, let's talk about agentic BI. Agentic BI is about democratizing data access for everyone, from data analysts to the executive. Now, whether it's through custom apps, whether it's through dashboards, whether it's through conversational experiences, we're enabling these data-driven workflows for every role. And you could use spreadsheets, you could use mobile apps. The goal is to bring data to every single person and user persona, even if data is not their day-to-day job, or they're not interacting with it. Now, conversational analytics revolutionizes the way we all interact with data. Imagine just chatting with your data, asking a question, and getting an answer in seconds. That's exactly what conversational analytics in Looker does, and it's been available since November of last year. And it not only improves efficiency, but it also empowers teams to make these data-driven decisions faster. Now, let's have an overview of all the product capabilities that come within conversational analytics. But let's take a step back and ask ourselves, why conversational analytics for Looker? Now, the first thing, how Looker is uniquely positioned, is because of our semantic layer. By defining the business logic in LookML, we guarantee data consistency and auditable governance. And you could be on any data platform. It could be BigQuery, it could be Snowflake, it could be Databricks. So being platform agnostic also allows us to scale and be available to more users. And by integrating conversational AI into the BI workflows, we create this full self-service and embeddable platform that serves as the ideal playground for users. And it allows you to use Gen AI in each step of the way. So let's talk about conversational analytics and all the different interfaces that we are exposing. So we have conversational analytics in the Looker UI. We're also making this available for Looker Embedded. Imagine taking these conversational agents and embedding it as iframe in your custom applications. We also have Conversational Analytics API for developers, the ability to build these custom AI agents, and exposing these agents in external applications, could be a mobile device or any other custom applications. And additionally, with Gemini Enterprise, customers can now build these agentic workflows with Looker by publishing these Looker agents directly into the broader ecosystem. Now, we're also putting these, pushing the boundaries of these agents that we're creating. There's a few capabilities that I would like to highlight. The first one, agent sharing. Now, agent sharing allows teams to create and collaborate on these pre-trained conversational agents that are configured and they're approved with the business definitions and context. So it allows this governed consistency by ensuring that every team member who's using these agents, the data comes from a single source of truth. Now, multi-explore capability allows the agent to intelligently draw context from a diverse data domain at once. Now, example, imagine taking data directly correlating customer behavior with support ticket volume, for example. And then the code interpreter. The code interpreter translates your natural language query into executable Python code. And it allows you to do advanced analytics like forecasting, machine learning, what-if analysis. And all of these capabilities are available today in the product. Now, we also know that in this day and age of AI, semantics and grounding for the agents is crucial. So we have taken a lot of steps in making sure that we allow these agents to be grounded in the intelligence. So we're leveraging Gemini 3. We've introduced sophisticated reasoning capabilities that allow the model to reflect and backtrack through complex queries. We have the concept of golden queries, where we allow organizations to prescribe the correct answer for the most complex or sensitive business questions. So instead of AI just guessing the logic each time, it refers to a library of these verified, expert-approved queries. Now, if a user's question contains ambiguous filters or ambiguous fields, the agent pauses and clarifies the request before executing the query. So this active disambiguation ensures that every response, again, is grounded in the user's actual needs before just giving out an answer. And then by natively supporting LookML formats and labels, we ensure that every answer is boardroom ready. So we're using human-readable terms instead of technical jargon, and we're also unlocking these advanced capabilities like period-over-period measures, dynamic parameters. We're allowing the agent to perform these complex trend analysis and identify the drivers behind business changes. Now, we're also providing agent observability, so administrators and owners have end-to-end control over the agent ecosystem. Furthermore, triggered workflows are a way for you to actively monitor the agents and the answers that you're getting. These agents can proactively track your metrics, they can alert your teams the moment a metric shifts, and you can move beyond what happened to actually recommending what to do next. Now, this one is a particular favorite of mine because I've been in the BI space for a very, very long time. And the fact that we're bringing conversational capabilities into the BI workflow changes the way we interacted with dashboards. Now imagine conversational capabilities within your dashboard interface. So you can, again, ask the questions of your dashboard data. And then you can also ask the dashboard to explain why behind the numbers, get instant summaries, and this deep insights through natural language. So super, super excited about dashboard agents. And then we're also bringing these agents with Gemini Enterprise, where you can now centralize and share your BI agents in a unified hub. I know there's a lot of conversations throughout this conference about Gemini Enterprise, and we're so excited that with Looker BI agents, you can publish these, and then you can have a single repository, and then continue with your Gemini Enterprise workflows based on the Looker data. So super exciting. So just to summarize with all the product capabilities that I spoke about, we have added better reasoning capabilities, so improved semantic grounding, eliminate ambiguity and machine learning capabilities. We're also expanding the surfaces that conversational analytics can be consumed. We have native UI, we have embeddable capabilities, we have dashboard agents via Gemini Enterprise. We're also adding the ability to take actionable insights and the ability to monitor and alert. And then we're also adding this end-to-end observability so you can view the trends and usage patterns. Now, there's so much we've added, and we're very excited about it. And all of this sits on top of the Looker's AI architecture. So I would love to have Leigha come on stage and walk us through what is this powerful foundation that lets our agents be the next-gen agents. So Leigha, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. So like Ani mentioned, now I want to go into Looker's architecture and talk in more detail about how it supports AI workflows. So if we imagine a conversation inside of the conversational analytics feature within Looker, you start with an input, a user question. And along with that input, we send some context to the agent. Historically, that context has been Looker Explorers, which are curated data exploration environments defined in LookML. And this gives your agent access to a list of verified metrics to use in the query that it composes. You also have the option to create custom agent instructions. So this allows you to ground the agent in your business. You can tell it best practices for how users at your organization are used to consuming insights, or add additional guardrails that help it understand what fields to use or what filters to apply. And now with the new dashboard CA feature, so the ability to chat with your dashboard, we have the dashboard added as context as well. And this is huge because your dashboards already represent verified queries. These are queries that your users are already using to make decisions, and now the agent has access to those for users to ask follow-up deep dive questions. So we have that input, and it's passed over to our reasoning engine, which is the conversational analytics agent that we've developed. And of course, this is powered by the latest Gemini models, and it also includes a curated system instruction and tool set. So we've tried to take the hard part about creating an agent that understands Looker, understands how to write queries against the Looker API, and we've made it into a capable data analyst that you can use directly out of the box. So I mentioned tools. There are a couple of different tools that the agent will frequently use. First of all, there's the get schema tool. And this allows the agent to get the semantic information from your LookML modeling layer. So what I mean by semantic information is it's looking at your field names, your labels, your descriptions, synonyms, and it's using this information to figure out what field do I need to use or what filter do I need to apply to answer the user's question. Next are sample and search data tools. Now this allows the agent to figure out the actual data representation in your underlying data warehouse. So it's not trying to guess values or assume that the user knows the exact name in the database. It will use these tools to confirm so that filters are applied with 100% precision. And then finally, there's the Run Looker Queries tool, and this allows it to execute a query against Looker to retrieve the data to answer the user's question. Like Ani was just mentioning, we've also recently added a feature called disambiguation. So it essentially makes the agent ask clarifying questions to the user if it doesn't really understand what field to use or what filter to apply. And all these tools are grounded in that LookML semantic model that Ani was mentioning before. So instead of simply compiling complicated SQL queries, it's actually creating a simple request to the Looker platform, and then the Looker engine is translating that request into the SQL query that's pushed down to your data warehouse. This means that the agent isn't guessing on complex metric definition. It doesn't need to realize what joins need to be applied or filters that always need to be present. all of that information can be put in LookML so it's deterministic and more accurate. So let's go a bit deeper and see how this all works. Let's imagine that I ask a question like, what's our total MRR for users who come from FB? So first, the agent wants to figure out what field represents total MRR. And it's going to do that by using that get schema tool. It's going to look at all the different fields that it has access to, and it's going to say, okay, which one of these fields do I need to use? So in this case, we have a measure, which is called total monthly recur rev. It might have some weird name, right? But you can add labels, descriptions, synonyms, which the agent will use to figure out which field to use in the query. Now it needs to figure out what filter represents users from FB. And this is where the sample data or fuzzy search tool comes into play. So the agent might say, okay, user acquisition source seems like a field I want to pay attention to. Let me sample the data. And that sample data might contain Facebook. So then the agent can make the connection, oh, by FB, the user is actually referring to Facebook. And this way the filter is applied using the word Facebook, and that's going to be an accurate filter, so it will actually return data. So putting this together, the agent comes up with this query representation that's shown at the top, where it's simply selecting the fields, it's simply putting the filter in place, and basically it's obscured from all the underlying complexity of what's going on in your data. And like I was saying before, Looker then translates this into some complex SQL query. It might have, case statements, complex aggregations, a lot of joins, and all of that is abstracted and handled deterministically. Okay, so going back to the architecture itself, beyond the reasoning capabilities to just get the answers from your database, the agent has access to a couple of other tools, like the Python code execution that Ani was mentioning before. And this is great for doing more advanced analytics. So you can look at what-if scenarios, different forecasting, machine learning, and this is on top of the governed data that is retrieved from Looker. Then we have data visualizations. So the agent can create custom visualizations or visualization configurations to create interactive charts that just make it easier for your end users to consume the information. And like Ani was saying, this is accessible not just from the Looker UI, which I'm going to show in a demo in just a second, but it can also be used through the Looker API. MCP tools are coming very soon, or you can embed the entire experience in an iframe to even make it available to your own customers with just a couple lines of code. Okay, now I'm going to turn over and show a live demo of this in action. Awesome. So in the Looker platform, you can create agents. I've started this agent, the Sales and Customer Health Agent, that's meant to help my sales team at the Symbol SaaS company analyze data from the CRM tool or customer health metrics coming from support and event logs. So I've gone ahead and connected a couple of different data sources. And in Looker, these data sources are explores. So let me open one up. The Explorer itself is defined in LookML, and it's basically a collection of related data sources. So think tables, fields, and the LookML itself encodes the relationship between these tables. In the Explorer environment, I can search for a field, let's say active ARR. And if I come here and go to LookML, we can see how this looks. Like I was mentioning before, we can add a label, description, synonyms, all this information to help the agent understand the semantics of how these fields are defined. And I can even put helpful information for the agent like, hey, this is the default field that I want you to use when my users are asking about revenue. Now, the key thing here is the agent doesn't need to know its definition. It doesn't need to know the SQL definition, any filters that are applied. Like I was saying, that's applied deterministically. So let's go ahead and test a question. I'll say, how much current revenue does John support? Now the agent will take my request and use those tools that I was mentioning before to try to figure out which fields and filters that it needs to apply. As the agent is thinking, I can click this Show Reasoning and see a more detailed answer for what the agent is doing. So basically, this is like the thought process that it's taking, and that's really helpful information just to see what it's considering so you can further refine your LookML or even create those custom agent instructions I was mentioning. So here it needs some clarification. It actually found John in a couple of different fields. So let me clarify that I'm talking about a sales rep here. And while that's running, we can pop this open just to see some more details. Here I know that the agent was actually using that sample value tool call that I was mentioning before. So it identified a couple of different fields and then was using the sample tool to look into those fields. Okay, now I see that there are actually multiple Johns that are all sales reps. So let me clarify that I'm specifically talking about John Conley. Beyond looking at the thought message, we can also use this debug info to get even more details on what happened behind the hood. So you can see a breakdown of the specific steps that the agent took and how much elapsed time happened in each one of those steps. Great. So now I have my answer. I can see that John is supporting $22 million of active revenue, and I can see exactly how this was calculated as text or in code, and even jump to the Explorer to see the query in a visual representation. Now, the cool thing here is that the agent simply selected this field, it applied this filter, but under the hood, there's actually a lot of complexity here. Because I asked for current ARR, I need to do joins to figure out what the current period is and make sure that I'm looking at something that's actually a recurring product, so it makes sense for the recurring revenue metric. But since the agent didn't have to worry about it, then it's able to do that analysis more accurately. Now let me ask a more in-depth question. So let me say, okay, can you help me understand potential what-if scenarios? I basically want to see what the total revenue for John might look like, depending on if he has a really great year, a good year, an okay year, or a kind of bad year. So this might take a little while. I ran it before, so I can quickly pop over here and show you what the agent came up with. But essentially, the agent went and fired off a couple of looker queries to gather some information, like how much does John have forecasted or an upside, and also looked at things like what's in the pipeline or what's already closed. And it's used this to come up with an answer to my question and basically proposed what's going to happen in all these different scenarios. Now, the cool part here is this was calculated actually using Python. I've already enabled this advanced analytics feature so that my agent can draft and execute Python to do those more comprehensive types of analyses. Awesome. So that's it for my demo. I'm going to pass it over to Alex now to talk about how Yahoo is using the Looker conversational analytics feature.
Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Leigha. Obviously, thank you, Google, for giving us an opportunity to come over here and kind of show what we do at Yahoo. I think the best way for you to adapt AI is to see what other folks are doing and taking it back to your organization and trying it at home. About a year ago, I was sitting in the exact same spot looking at those slide decks, and I thought, like, wow, we can really utilize something like this. So we went back, tried a lot of different things, and here we are on the stage. Okay, so a little bit about Yahoo. We've been using Looker and LookML for a very long time, about a decade. We have multiple Google Cloud Core instances. One is for HR, one is for search, one's for finance, and so on. We do have multiple agents in production today. We are also in the QA process for the rest of the agents. So we're going to have probably double digits by the end of this quarter. And every solution starts with a problem. And I think the biggest problem that we have is the dashboard overload. Our company loves dashboards. We have a lot of looks. But as you can imagine, managing those dashboards can become a little bit hard. If you're in a similar setup as us, You probably have your agile development, you have your Jira, you have your sprint planning, and sometimes it can take a day, sometimes it can take a week or a month, and even for a simpler request, it might take a little bit of time for you to get to your end user and fix the issue or maybe add a new feature that they are actually looking for. And what we'll be trying to do is promote the self-service where the end users not just creating dashboards and visualizations, but they also creating their own LookML and their own explorers, which they can later translate into the agents, right? So for example, somebody might have a very specific idea about what kind of agents they want to introduce to their environment, but they might have to wait on my team in order for us to create the explorer, possibly create the model, or help them get to the point where they need to be. So what we're trying to do is promote the self-service so people can actually create their own explorers and utilize the agents without utilizing my team. And advanced analytics is another feature that really highlights the conversation analytics and allow users to do something that they were not able to do before. For example, not every team or department has ability to analyze your data. Not everybody have a data scientist. Not everybody has a business analyst, right? So a lot of departments kind of rely on my team to explain to them why the data looks the way it is. With advanced analytics and conversational analytics, what users are able to do is provide those similar kind of insights that a data scientist would allow you to do, but without any kind of knowledge. All you really have to do is just pop in the questions, wait 30 seconds, and then you have a very detailed explanation of not what is happening, but most importantly, why it's happening. So on the right-hand side, you can see a service desk where we show in a heat map or where the busiest times of the day are. And what's possible to do with this is, once again, create it in about a minute. Obviously, your engineer or maybe some of the folks that you know will be able to produce something like that, but the question is how long is it going to take them to produce it? With conversational analytics, you can do a lot of those things in about 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds. So how do we get there? Most likely, if you're already using Looker, you're already there. 1 through 4 is most likely where you are. So the only thing that you're missing is the layer number 5 and 6. And let's talk about layer number 5 a little bit. That is your Explorer. That is your LookML. And what you need to be doing is prepping your code for the LLMs. You might have some very custom logic. You might have something very specific inside your model, view, or explore that LLM might not understand right away. So the more comments you have, the more golden queries you have, the more glossary you have inside your code, the better your output is going to be. And in terms of the 6th layer, it's the agent instructions, which obviously can be hard to figure out at the beginning. But before we get to the agent instructions, let's kind of look at the overall diagram and how everything comes together. So we have a lot of different data sources. We have a lot more than this, but you can only fit so many on the slides. But basically what we're doing is we're collecting all of those data sources and we're pushing all of this to the BigQuery. Once it's inside a BigQuery, it's going to a specific Looker instance. For example, if it's HR-related data, it's going to go to HR instance. If it's finance-related data, it's going to go to the finance instance. But all of this comes into multiple explorers. Today, you can utilize up to 5. In the past, it was 1. So it's really, really cool that Google was able to introduce 5 different explorers per agent because you can really take a lot of explorers that had a very specific function and then pull them together, and now you have this agent that's capable of doing multiple things, right? So obviously, we didn't get there overnight. It did take a little bit of research and development. It did take us a little bit of time, like trying different things out. We started back in 2024. In 2025 summer, we kind of started really playing with it and trying to figure out how do we make this work. How do we get the output to 100%? Most likely, some of you already tried Looker conversation analytics or agents, and you may be 90% there. But you want to be at 95, or maybe you want to be at 100 like we are. So it took us a little bit of time of playing around. We started with the JSON formatting, and it was kind of like a hit and miss. A lot of things work, a lot of things didn't work. So we reached out to Google, and we asked them, how do we make this work, or what can we improve? And after them scanning kind of like through what we were doing, the only suggestion they had is, why aren't you using YAML? And it was kind of like this small silence for 5 seconds, and I said, I don't know. I don't know why we're using YAML. So if there is one word I want you to remember from my bit is YAML. YAML, YAML, YAML. LLMs love it. It's efficient. it just works. And as you can see, in January of this year, we made this tremendous progress where I was not just able to get my boss excited about it, I was able to get other departments excited about it, right? And by showing this, that, hey, we have this going on, it's working, would you like to try it? And you'd be surprised how excited a lot of folks are going to get to give it a try. And then once again, we start embedding the YAML and golden queries and the glossary into our LookML and our explorers. I'm going to show that in just a bit. But Q2 is kind of like we're really going to focus on not just creating new explorers with glossary and golden queries in mind, but we're also going to revamp whatever we already have that already exists. So that way, if somebody wants to create an agent with a specific explorer that's not being utilized right now, it's already basically good to go. All they have to do is just connect it and click next. So this slide is one of my engineers actually suggested to have that. I'm sure a lot of folks over here, business or sales folks, but there's probably some technical folks over here that actually want to see what the agent instruction looks like, right? Like, what are you supposed to have in there? What am I supposed to be doing there? And on the left-hand side, you see our old formatting, which was the JSON. As you can see, it's quite a bit of text. And then in the middle, we went from JSON to YAML. And as you can see, there is not much difference in terms of how it's structured, but it is more optimized, right? It is better on your tokens. It's just better in general. And then as we start introducing golden queries and glossaries into the LookML, the views and the models, we drastically reduce the amount of instruction that's actually required for the agent because LLM already understand what needs to happen through your semantic layer. Okay, and at the end of the day, the LookML is your biggest asset. You most likely spend hours, if not thousands of hours, developing this LookML. You have a bunch of engineers that put a lot of blood and sweat into developing the semantic layer. You need to continue evolving it. It needs to get better. And the only way to get it better is by commenting on your code. I highly, highly encourage you guys to develop your LookML utilizing AI. A lot of engineers sometimes don't comment on the code. So let's say you have a new person coming in, they won't be able to kind of like see what's happening. But the better you have your code, the better it is for the human as well as the LLM. All right, and here's one of the examples of the service desk, of the output that we produced. We basically comparing Q1 versus Q2. And in the past, something like that could take manual labor. For example, the department that we built this for was extracting data from ServiceNow for one quarter, extracting data from ServiceNow for the second quarter, and then kind of like manually comparing what went up, what went down. And obviously, it would take a lot of time. And now you can do something like that in a matter of a minute. So I encourage to go back to your company and ask somebody, hey, how fast can you produce this? And give them a minute and see what happens. On the second example, we have a Pareto analysis, which basically shows the 80% of all the work that's happening in the service desk. And as you can see, it's not just showing me the data, it's also showing me the insights and kind of explaining to you what are those biggest issues that we're having. And as you can see, the 80%, 34 categories basically covering the 80% of our entire service desk. And if you take a look at the top 5 drivers, it's actually over 53%. I'm sure a lot of companies over here have very similar thing where they have a lot of accounts-related issue. But it's very easy for me to see right away, what is the biggest issue, what is the small issue. And Looker Conversational Analytics allows you to do that. So a little bit about the future. A lot of sessions this year cover Gemini Enterprise. I think it's a phenomenal tool. Sounds like magic. So I highly encourage you guys to give it a shot. But what's beautiful about it is you can connect your Looker API, you can connect the MCP server, and really allow your end users to poke around your semantic layer while utilizing Claude or Cursor or whatever the tools and software that you're actually using. Okay, and once again, if there is one word, it would be YAML. If there is one sentence, it would be this sentence. Conversational analytics and agents do not start with the AI. Don't think about AI. Think about your semantic layer. Think about your data. The minute all of that's ready to go, the conversation analytics kind of became almost the next set of the evolution. And we are a little bit like short on time, so I do have a quick demo. So let me go ahead and click play, I believe. Sorry, how do we? I don't see the play button. Oh, there you go. Sorry about that. There we go. In this demo, we're going to demonstrate how quickly you can go to production with one of your agents, as long as you have an existing Explorer. You basically need an agent name, you need an agent description, your data source, which is going to be your Explorer. You can have maximum up to 5, but for the current demo, we're only going to use 1. And then obviously, you're going to need your instructions. There's different ways you can generate instructions. What we're trying to do is promote self-serve. So what we did is created a custom gem. And if we go inside this gem, we'll notice that it's very similar to Looker agent. It has your name, description, as well as your instructions. However, we do have 7 additional files that are powering this gem. So let's go ahead and take a look at those files. We have our instruction guide, which is basically going to use different phases in order to generate the final output. We have our schema file,